Hello, it's Robin May, the founder of the I Believe in Marriage Network, and I'm so excited to have some time just to chat with you. On this past Friday, I did a Facebook Live and we dived into the conversation on is your mindset messing up your marriage? And I shared a concept in that Facebook Live about cognitive distortions, and I told you guys if you had some more questions to shoot me an email, and baby, y'all had some more questions. And so I wanted to take some time just to do a quick video because I think I can explain it better via video. Now, if you missed that Facebook Live, I'm going to tell you how you can listen to it. If you're looking at this video in your email, it's right above this email. If you're looking at this video on Facebook, on the I Believe in Marriage Facebook page, just scroll down. The video is somewhere here on the Facebook page. And if you're looking at this via Instagram, click the link in the bio and go to the Facebook page, all right? Because I want y'all to see that Facebook Live. It's about 35 minutes. You can just listen to it on your way to work. Keep your hands on the wheel. You can listen to it while you're exercising, working out. You and your spouse might want to listen to it and jot down some notes, but I want you to listen into that. Now, I don't know about you, but listen, there's so many different things pulling at my attention and at my time. And honestly, if I don't feel like it's relevant to what's going on with me right now, I'm not going to even listen to it. I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to keep scrolling. And so I don't want you to think that what I'm about to share with you is not relevant to your marriage. I'm telling you that this concept of cognitive distortions is impacting your romance. So don't stop this video. Keep watching it, but just make sure that if you have to multitask, do that, girl, because I would have to multitask. To my brothers, I would have to multitask. I'm just telling you the truth. All right, so I'm going to break this down for you. I'm going to share with you what a cognitive distortion is, why you should even care about it, where they come from, what are the common cognitive distortions, and what you need to do about it. And I'm going to try to do it real quick. So if you hear me fast, speed talking, that's why. All right. Now, I got to say this, I am a licensed professional counselor and a certified life coach, but this is not a clinical counseling session. This isn't even a coaching session. You got to pay a copay for that. But this is just me sharing the information with you. You can go talk to your therapist about it. You can do some more research. And if you want the two of us to work together, I would love to. Go to IBelieveInMarriage.com and click on Work with Robin, and we can make it happen. All right, so what in the world is a cognitive distortion? Basically, y'all, that's a fancy term. Think about the word cognitive. We know that means thinking. Distortion is when it's twisted. So a cognitive distortion is just when your thinking is twisted. Another term is stinking thinking. And I want you to understand that we all have times when our thinking is stinking. Everybody has it. President Barack Obama, my best friend Oprah, don't worry about it, she don't know she's my best friend. My best friend Oprah, Michelle Obama, Beyonce, everybody has times when their thinking can be a little off. Another idea about this, or way to look at this, is like irrational thought patterns. Now, let me say again, this is not clinical counseling, but there are times when our thinking can become extreme, and then we got to start looking at mental illness. But everyday people, all of us, and everyday people have mental illness too, so there's no shame. We got to take away the stigma about mental illness, but that's another session. Oh, I just said this isn't a counseling session. That's another conversation, okay? But again, everybody has cognitive distortions. And so why should you even care about it? Why is this even relevant to you? Because I want you to understand that the way you think is directly impacting the communication in your marriage. The way you think, the way you process information, it is directly impacting your communication. And couples often tell me, Robin, my spouse and I, we just can't seem to communicate. I really have discovered that it's much more than communication. It's really your connection. But your connections and your communication is directly impacted by the way you process. So if you have some stinking thinking, if you have some irrational thought patterns, then of course it's impacting the friendship in your marriage. It's impacting the intimacy in your marriage. It's impacting your ability to have calm conversations. I'm telling you that understanding your own cognitive distortion can be a game changer for your marriage. Now let me tell you this. I'm going to share with you the common cognitive distortions that people normally deal with. Now, there are a lot of them. I'm going to share with you 5 common ones. And then if you want the rest of them, there's a little link right here that you can download all of them. You can download at least 15, not all of them, at least 15 of them that I've pulled together for you. It's right here, either in the bio, either in the email content, or either on Facebook, okay? But If you are already thinking, yes, Robin, let me see that list so I can see what's wrong with my husband's thinking. Or, yes, Robin, give me that list because there's something wrong with the way my wife thinks. If that is how you are already processing, that's a form of stinking thinking. Because if you are quickly thinking about what's wrong with them, that's one of the ways you can know that you got some stinking thinking. I want you to look at you first. Anybody that works with me knows that I hold the mirror up so that you can see you first, because you're the only one that you can control. And if we're honest, we don't always do a good job of that. All right, so I just told you what cognitive distortions is. It's basically stinking thinking. It's irrational thought patterns. Now, why should you care? Because it's directly impacting the communication and the connection and the intimacy and the friendship in your marriage. It's all playing a part because the way you process, the way you understand, the way you take in information, and the conclusions that you come to are directly impacting your relationship. Now, where does cognitive distortions come from? I cannot tell you one source. They don't come from just this one situation. It's multidimensional. It can come from the way you were brought up. It can come, one of the first things that came to my mind, it can even be cultural. Have you ever heard the saying, if it ain't one thing, it's another? Well, that's negative filtering. And that can sometimes just be a statement that's passed down generationally. So our cognitive distortions could be cultural. It could be experiences. It could be upbringing. It could be a high level of stress. It could be a moment where you're having a particularly tough time. So it's multi-dimensional, okay? So it's not necessarily one place that it comes from. But I will say that I have found it to be generational even in my life. Some of my cognitive distortions, and I'm going to share with you what two of my main ones are. I have found it could be a bit generational because I've seen it play a part, play out in my family, all right? So they come from a multi-directional. And so I want to share with you 5 common cognitive distortions. And remember, I want you to start by looking at you. Don't automatically think about your spouse. Now, your spouse got one too. Girl, your man got cognitive distortions too. And fellas, I'm telling you, your wife got one too, but more than one. We all have more than one. But I want you to look at you first, all right? So I'm going to tell you 5 of them very quickly. The 5 common cognitive distortions that I'm going to cover today are filtering, polarized thinking, overgeneralization, jumping to conclusions, and catastrophizing. Now, remember, I saw at one point a list of 100 cognitive distortions. I normally deal with about 15. Not that I have 15. But I normally share about 15. I think the list I'm going to give you will either have 10 or 15 in them. But very quickly, these make sense once you hear this. So filtering is when you filter out all of the good and you only focus on the negative. So imagine that you got some pasta and you're draining the pasta, and so you pour the pasta into the filter and all the water drains out, and then you have the pasta there. That is filtering. You let all the good filter out and you only focus on the negative. And so fellas, if you're complaining to your boys about your wife, you're only focused on the negative. You're just acting like the good isn't even there. That's called filtering. Imagine if your cognitive distortion, if your default way of processing is that you are automatically filtering, you automatically look at the negative and just ignore the good. Imagine how that impacts your marriage. Another one, hey, this is one of mine. Polarized thinking, or another term for that is black and white thinking. This person has a very hard time seeing the gray in situations. They can be very extreme in their thinking. It's either good or it's bad, and they have a hard time seeing the gray. And often the people who have polarized thinking is good or bad is based on what they've determined is good and what they've determined is bad. Hey, my husband deals with that with his wife. Imagine how frustrating that can be, that I'm seeing things this way and it's hard for me to see it in a different way. Now, the reason why polarized thinking can be tricky, because this is not about compromise. It's not about saying, I believe in marriage is unapologetically faith-based. So this is not about saying, the Bible says that a husband is to honor his wife, but that ain't necessarily what it means. That's not what we're talking about. No, we don't want to compromise. And what God says is God's word. But as we are living life, as we're processing decisions that we have to make, if you can only see it as good or bad, this or that, that's considered polarized thinking. The third one is overgeneralization. And this person who struggles with overgeneralization is that they can have one experience and they jump to a conclusion about that experience. And so your wife showed up late for dinner, and you just decide she's disrespectful. See, she's disrespect because one time she showed up late. Now she has a pattern of being late, and you've asked her over and over again not to be late, and she just keeps on doing it, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. That's one thing. But she showed up late one time, and you've just concluded that she is disrespectful. You're overgeneralizing it. You're coming to a conclusion because of one experience. Number 4, jumping to conclusions. Another term for this is fortune telling. You've decided that you know why somebody is doing what they are doing. You assume you know what they're thinking, what they're processing without gathering more information. You jump to conclusions. And then the 5th one is catastrophizing. Hey, your girl, that's another one that I struggle with, catastrophizing. And that is sometimes blowing things a bit out of proportion. You see, I'm trying to make it sound cute. Blowing things out of proportion. How I like to describe it is that something can be a 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, it can be a 10, and 10 is really bad. It can be a 10. But by the time I finish with it, I'm going to make it a 20. And so that is catastrophizing. It is making it a bigger deal than what it is. It doesn't mean that it's not a big deal, but you are catastrophizing, or you are looking out for the negative. You're trying to find the negative in it. You are blowing it up. So those are 5 common cognitive distortions, thinking. And if you can imagine, if you're filtering, if you have black and white thinking, you overgeneralize, you jump to conclusions, or you're catastrophizing, I know you can imagine how that impacts your romance. All right. So the question now is, what in the world do you do about it? If you are willing to look in the mirror and you're saying, yeah, Robin, I got you. I have one of these, or I have one of the other ones after you look at the list. What do you do about it? The first step is acceptance, awareness. Now, it's not enough. Awareness is not enough. Let me say it again. Awareness is not enough. You can know your stuff and not be willing to do anything about it. But you first have to be aware. Then the second thing you have to do is to be willing to do something about it. You need to get some accountability. You got to be able to say, now look, this is sort of how I do it. Listen, I know sometimes it's hard for me to keep things minimal. I take it to a whole nother level. Help me balance it out. That's where wise counsel comes into play. And then you got to remember this is another thing you can do about it. Remember that you're not as easy to live with as you think. And so you got to consider how would you feel if your spouse was coming to conclusions about why you did what you did, and they weren't willing to hear your opinion about it or hear how you were really feeling. When you start to recognize that it's not as easy to be with you as you think it is, and you start being empathetic towards your spouse, they will then be empathetic towards you. So number 1, you got to be aware. Number 2, you got to be willing to do something about it. Number 3, you got to consider, how is that impacting my spouse? And then be willing to be held accountable. All right, guys, I just wanted to go over that really quickly with you. We have some amazing things in store over the next several months for the I Believe in Marriage Network. Remember, we are celebrating 10 years this year, but we really didn't go hard in the paint for our 10 years. And so we are going to be celebrating a decade plus 1 next year. And so we're building up for all of that for this last semester. And so make sure you're plugged in. Now, fellas, a couple of things. Fellas always tell me the ladies ain't listening. They don't listen to us. They don't listen to us. And I have created a survey where I can hear just directly from you. So that link is going to be here as well. I want to hear from you, fellas. I want you to complete this survey. And ladies, there's a meeting in the ladies' room. And I want to hear from you as well. I want to connect heart to heart for you. And so there's a link for you as well. All right. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comment section. You can direct message me. It goes down in the DMs. I had to do it. Or you can hit reply and we will get back with you as soon as we can. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.